Welcome to Screenblend episode 11, and today we are looking at our top Nintendo Switch titles that are best to play with friends or at a party. And we also look into the new Indiana Jones news and a Kingdom Hearts show at Disney+. Stay tuned. Okay, welcome everyone to Screenblend episode 11, and this is once again my co-host Will Cutts.
Mace, how are you, mate?
Good, I got the episode right this time, so we're making a good start already.
Good start. No, what a week. Recording this on Thursday, so a little bit later in the week than we normally do. Probably looking at Thursday record, probably a Friday release from now, I reckon, and then with some special stuff over the weekend. Good week so far, though, mate. You look a little bit chilly. You got your big jacket on.
Yep, yeah, it's definitely colder here in Adelaide now. So instead of wearing my shorts and my shirt, I'm resorting to trackies and heavy jumpers.
Trackies and heavy jumpers.
Approaching June.
I'm here, got the t-shirt, got the jeans on, all ready to go for today's pod, mate. Quickly, again, everyone, you can always find us at screen_blend on all of the social media channels or screenblend.net. The website's been given a little bit of a pizzazz.
Very nice.
Spent last week doing a little bit of that. So we'll have some more stuff jumping on there, but you can obviously always find all of the information regarding the Screenblend podcast on our social media feeds, or Jack at Jack_Mason22, or me at Will Be Cuts on our social feeds. But Mason, today we're talking a little bit about family and interacting through games. So we haven't really done a games podcast yet, have we?
No, this is the very first one, and I thought, what's a better way to do it than going with what's the most popular console right now during quarantine? Nintendo Switch, and we're all together, all with our families and friends. So what are some really good games that you can go out and get now that you can have an amazing time with and sit down with a few beers with your mates?
You don't sit down with a few beers.
Coffee.
Yeah, a few coffees with the mates. But no, I think we'll get into the Switch a bit later anyway. But I think the beauty of the Switch is it's like I can play it with mum and dad, and you can play it with your whole family. It's not like picking up a PlayStation. It's really hard for them to understand and play. The game's a bit more family friendly in that way. But that's what you can look forward to, guys and girls. We'll be talking about the Switch a little bit later and some of our recommendations. So I'll probably start doing a bit of time coding, Mace, so people can, if they want to skip through to that, they can go to a bit of a time code. We're going to go to the news section now this week. And you've got a couple of news things you want to bring up, and we'll have a little bit of a discuss.
Yeah, so the first topic of news is coming off last week as well with the new Justice League Snyder Cut. So a lot of details have kind of been released this week, and we've recently learned that there's going to be no reshoots whatsoever, so they're not bringing back any of the cast, which is huge, and they're going to rely a lot of the $30 million budget, which is actually now going to go well beyond that from what we hear from HBO, into lots of special effects and creating characters up and using as much CGI as possible to kind of fill in those missing scenes that haven't been filmed.
Yeah, I've got a feeling we're going to see a lot of different characters, and this is going to be completely different. I think we touched on this last week anyway. And what we've found out in the last week has been a lot of this is going to be completely different from the original, and things that were cut. I like the idea of that, though, is getting the actors back would just be a pain in the ass at this point in time, and probably delays majority of the release, because they haven't told us in 2021 when this is going to get that release. So it's probably easier for them they could create Martian Manhunter, for example, or like some Green Lantern characters and add some extra things in like that, all pretty much through CGI at the moment for those guys. So I think that's interesting. And like you said, the original $30 million sort of they were saying this is going to cost, I think is going to massively balloon out on top of that.
Which is a bit worrying really for HBO, if it turns out to, go anywhere beyond 50, almost, approaching the original budget very slowly.
Yeah. Oh, the original budget was $300 million though.
Oh, true. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of off. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, in the end, that CGI is obviously a ridiculous cost, and just to put this together, I did notice because HBO's been, and HBO Max or whatever it is, was released in the States this week, I think, or in the next couple of days. I think that's the release of it. I think this is looking more and more like it's going to be a 6-parter or a 4-parter.
Yeah, I agree. And do take into consideration though that the Justice League was, that budget piled up because of lots of reshoots and
Yeah,
editing out mustaches and stuff
yeah.
like that. So I'm not sure what the original budget was, but no, it's still going to be an expensive movie either way. Yeah, it's going to be
So
interesting.
yeah, I think it's pushing. It's going to be expensive, and that's why I think they'll push it to being probably 6. I reckon they would have done 4 parts if it didn't cost as much, because it would be in that same sort of free month
Mm,
sort of idea. But this sort of nails on, if HBO is being released in like this week in the States, like we don't have it here in Australia, or it will go to Foxtel. But it's looking more and more like this is going to be around that 12-month time, I reckon, since HBO would have started. So this will be a key thing to keep subscribers over time,
yes.
I think, because HBO is obviously getting Friends over there and the Harry Potter series and a number of those things that we have on different streaming platforms here in Australia. But over time, you obviously need to continue releasing some impressive content to keep people. And we'll talk about this a little bit later in the show and tell segment, but it's looking more and more like the days of a binge watch is going, I think.
Mm.
And these streaming services are going to continue to be what Foxtel was, or a cable platform is in the States, that it's going to be released weekly or 2 episodes a week, etc., instead of just lumping us with a whole series to binge watch overnight. Because the money, I reckon too many people would cancel their subscription after a show and just keep getting it back and forth.
I
So
agree. You watch the Friends special and the Justice League cut, and you're good to go for HBO Max.
yeah, then you're done. So the next thing, continuing on from this Snyder world, there's been talks back and forth and regarding the fact is, are these characters coming back? Is this going to reset a world? Is this now just completely different universe than where our characters are sort of going in at the moment? Because again, obviously, you can listen to episodes 8 and 9 of Screenblend and have a look at the DCEU chat that we've had, to go back and have a squiz at that, everybody. But you're after Justice League, everything sort of moved in a different direction. Things were sort of moving, and some things didn't really connect with Justice League, like a little bit, and contradicted itself. But they're talking right now that AT&T and Warner Brothers and DC would like Ben Affleck back as Batman. Now, where does this sit with you, Mace? Because it's an interesting concept, I honestly think, of
Mm.
we're getting the Batman in 2021 with Robert Pattinson, or as I call him, Little Boy, in last week's episode. I forgot his name. But no, where does this sit with you? Because obviously it's going to be completely different. But yeah,
I don't know if they're going to get Ben Affleck back. I think he really did not enjoy the role to the extent that the other previous iterations of Batman have in their retrospective actors. I don't think he will. And if he does, I think he's going to go after quite a bit of money.
yeah,
And at the same point, I think the studio's going to think this is probably too much for Affleck. He's a great actor, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he ever really enjoyed this role, especially to go and do his own solo film. It's great that the Batman script he was originally doing, and I think he was also writing it.
yeah,
It's good that that might go back into production, but him as an actor coming back to the role, I'm not getting my hopes up, and I don't think
yeah,
anyone really should, especially with that, like you said, with that second universe now starting after the
yeah,
Joker and
yeah,
Robert Pattinson's Batman. I think it's just a very fine line, and that it probably won't.
yeah. I'm intrigued. I think again, we won't know the numbers of how well this release does next year, because they don't seem to tell us that sort of stuff. So unless it's a colossal hit and it gives them millions of subscribers, I would believe we probably won't see something like this. It's good to think about, and maybe the character comes on some flashpoint movie and pops in for a couple of minutes here or there. But I think that the new Batman will be the one we go with. So this was a bit of information and news that really excites you, because you're a fan of the games. Kingdom Hearts, an animated series, is coming on Disney Plus. Can you inform the listeners and viewers a little bit of information about that, Mace?
Yeah, so Kingdom Hearts, if you played the games, it's a combination between the Japanese RPG Final Fantasy
Yeah,
mixed with all the Disney licenses. So the main games start with an original character called Sora, and he goes around with Donald and Goofy to different Disney worlds in order to defeat the Heartless, which are almost like the villains of the game. And it's a very complicated storyline, but as the kind of game series has gone on, there's about 10 games and 3 main iterations of that game. It's kind of started its own characters. So it's kind of has its own character base now over Final Fantasy or Disney. So it will be interesting to see whether they adopt a new character, like we said in the previous week, where they do an Assassin's Creed route, where they, find a new character who does similar things to what the main character Sora does in the games, or whether they just completely do a remake of what's happened in the game so far. But I have heard this is going to be a completely done CGI show, because I do think it would be too hard to do as live action, because the budget would go up so much. There's so many, it's Disney characters and Final Fantasy characters, which there's no grounded material that you can really film. So I think that's a good, cheaper route to do full CGI. But yeah, I'm excited. It will be very, very interesting to see how it turns out, especially as a Disney Plus series. But yeah, I'm quite excited, and I'm sure fans will be too.
Because was this a key release in PS2 or PS3, like the original?
So Kingdom Hearts has banned since 2002.
Yes, it was a PS2 release, wasn't it? When PS2 was.
Yes, it was. It was originally a PS2 release.
Yeah, that's what I remember, because I don't think I've played it since the PS2 one, and I remember so that's 18 years now.
A long time ago.
A long time ago now. No, I remember a fun game. I struggled probably a little bit with it, but it's probably one of those ones.
It was quite a hard game for what appears as a child's game.
Yeah.
And Disney, it is actually a very difficult game.
Yeah, I remember some things, and looking back at games back then now compared to it, I'm like, wow, that one was actually pretty difficult for me. So, and it's something that I haven't really thought of, like that series and sort of things, for a number of years, but I can see this is what Disney is trying to do. And again, they've probably got the CGI of these characters already done in some respects, if they go with characters they've already used before. So they probably just need to relook at them in a little way, and they can sort of just go on like that. I think it's an interesting concept, and Disney Plus needs more and more original series in a way to push everything and continue to get subscribers. So
and there's always more games. There's more Kingdom Hearts games coming, so I'll always be able to play off the games, and the TV show can play off the show and whatnot. So yeah, it will be good. It'll be good.
Now slide into one of your favorite series, and James Mangold he's now lined up to direct Indy 5. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So he's replacing Steven Spielberg, who's been assigned to Indiana Jones 5 for a couple of years now. Yeah. And as you know, Spielberg's directed the last 4 films as well. So he's kind of, he creates this franchise with George Lucas. So the fact that he's out now, a lot of pressure's riding on Mangold to produce something really good. So at this stage, it's planned for a 29th of July release date in 2022. Yeah. So it's still a while off, and I've heard lots of rumors that the scripts are going through multiple iterations, rewrites. So it's on a bit of a wonky road up until filming, I think.
Now with this, does Harrison Ford have to be Indy? Is that what we're looking at now, or
yes, he will be. This will be his last Indiana Jones film.
Okay.
Even though he's freaking old.
Yeah, so
he'll be a CGI double half the time.
Yeah, because he's 77 now, so that means he'll be 80 by the time. And the thing is with him is he looks old now. Like, I'm looking at, let's go Indy 4. When was Indy 4? That would have been
That was 2008.
So, he looks sort of old in that, because he is. But he sort of looks like, because that would mean he's 60s. So it's he can get away with it. But now you're heading to 80 when the time of release. It's really, guys?
Yeah, a bit physically demanding for him for an action film, I think, at this rate. But they don't need him for everything.
No, and that's the thing. What's your thoughts on this? Especially because I know we haven't really gone into this. And again, I always say each week, this would be an interesting topic.
Well, I think it would be. Yeah, I'd love to go into Indiana Jones. Yeah,
but I think it's a larger thing of old 80s, 70s franchises coming back for sequels. And do we have to continue with these characters? And
I think it's hit or miss.
Yeah. Do we go to Indiana Jones 6, 7, 8 with someone else playing Indy? Or is it because that universe is you can't just go with Bob Jones in Indiana Jones, you know what I mean? You can't just have his son and Shia LaBeouf, all that sort of shit. I don't know. I'm intrigued by this one because I just go, really, do we need another Indy? Is the studio just looking at it as a way that they can, it's a guaranteed money hit?
Pass on the baton, I think, is the point. Because Shia LaBeouf was, his son in the fourth one, and I think that was the idea of the fourth, to pass it on to Shia LaBeouf to carry the franchise from there. But as we know, Shia LaBeouf kind of fell off the rails after that film. So I think they'd kind of almost do another idea of, finding someone to take the mantle and carry it on from 5 onwards without Ford.
Yeah. Because I forget Shia at that point was like 20. He was real young. So they would have really, poor bugger. But I don't even think, was the fourth one good? Sorry, we weren't going to. No,
I didn't mind it. Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't as good as the original trilogy, but it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, because I remember,
I don't hate it as much.
Yeah, I remember it just being like, really, guys? Like, it wasn't amazing, but oh well, that is what it is. Final thing is, and on our game sort of related podcast for today, Last of Us is still continuing to get released next month. Here in Australia is June 19th. You had a little bit of information regarding that?
So they recently released kind of a new gameplay segment that just showed off a bit more about, the open worlds that Ellie can go into in the new Last of Us 2. So this is still aiming for a June 19th release date. And at this stage, all the reviewers all do have the copy of the game and they're all playing through it now. I wish we had it, but we unfortunately don't. So our review will be coming a bit further in June. But at this stage, all reviews will be coming out. The embargo will be June 12th. So we'll be able to know how amazing Naughty Dog's Last of Us 2 will be then.
Yeah. I'm intrigued. We were talking a little bit about this off air, and we'll end up doing a bit of a look back at the original game at the time of release for this one, and then we'll get into the game. I'm intrigued. I'm really excited. I think it's going to be an interesting game in the end, and I'm trying to not check any spoilers because I accidentally clicked on something and I saw something, so I'm like, that better not be it.
Yeah, be very careful with spoilers, everyone. Yeah, lots of leaks.
Lots of leaks at the moment, and it's one of those ones now is I'm sort of also like, whenever we get like an Avengers leak or something, I'm like, I don't know, there's 80 million different leaks. Probably all of these are untrue or they're all true. So I just looked at it and I was like, oh, bloody hell, this better not be it. But that's the beauty of bloody Facebook and Twitter and all that sort of shit. It's just don't look at it. Just don't even bother with it. So we'll slide into today's main topic now, unless there's any other bits of news, Mace, that you've got.
No, that's the work. It's been a slow week, so I think we should get on to the main topic.
So main topic now is we're talking about the Nintendo Switch, a popular console in this day and age right now while we're in quarantine, social distancing. And I think it is the perfect sort of... Now, which one do you think sort of had a bigger cultural sort of hit, the Wii or the Switch, when both originally came out at their own times?
I think the Wii did, definitely, because the Wii kind of helped mainstream audiences get amongst the consoles and the console generation, and the movement controls as well really helped define a generation. Switch has sold very well, and don't get me wrong, it's an amazing console, but definitely didn't have the influence that the Wii originally did. Kind of attracting that general audience who didn't play games prior.
So when I'm just trying to remember when was the Wii out? That'd been like a 2008.
2006.
2006. Okay, sorry, Jack.
I believe.
Do you have the exact release date?
The original Wii date. Yeah, I can quickly.
No, I found it. I'm just saying, do you remember it?
So I am correct.
Yeah.
Let me guess. May 24th.
No, completely wrong. November 19th. I wasn't expecting you to get it. I was just checking. So no, I think in the end, like, I remember the Wii being it was such a big thing at the end, like Wii Sports and that bloody Wii Fit where they made you buy that bloody box. You had to get up on it, step on it, and step side to side.
I avoided that one.
Oh, no, I remember getting that. Me and Eri turned that on, and this would probably be like 3 or 4 years ago now. They're like, you have not been on for 1,785 days.
You are fat.
Yeah, basically saying you're fat. And I'm like, far out. Like I was like, okay, yeah, stuff this. So no, but I think the Switch, I remember of when that sort of came out, I know a lot of people were like, oh, what the hell is what is this for the generic sort of gamer? Is that sort of right? You're seeing like, oh, look at this should go on the TV, it's portable, it's all this sort of stuff. Like, how does this sort of work? Can you take us back to just quickly before we get into everything, when you first saw the Switch, what was your first thoughts on the console?
Well, you're talking to one of the only people who actually owned a Wii U, which
Yep.
was the which was the sequel to the Wii, the original Nintendo Wii,
Yeah.
and that failed. That was a huge bomb.
Yeah.
So Nintendo didn't have a lot going for it between 2012 and when the Switch was released.
Mm.
So there was very few games that ended up being released for the Wii U, and as you know, that was a big mistake
Mm.
on my behalf to get. Because there was only a few good games like Mario Kart 8,
Yeah.
Super Smash Brothers, maybe Pokken Tournament, and the rest kind of fizzled out. All the future plan releases for that console died out and got ported
Mm.
to the Switch, and all the successful ones came onto the Switch anyway, like Mario Kart Deluxe. So now it's just sitting there gathering dust,
Yeah.
gathering some dust. So the Switch kind of revitalized Nintendo after such
Yeah.
a poorly received console, and it pretty much implemented everything
Yeah.
the Wii U did, except you can bring the Wii, you can bring the Switch anywhere you want, whereas the Wii you could kind of carry it around, but you can only take it so far away from the console.
Yeah.
So I think what made the Switch good is that it's versatile. You can bring it everywhere, and as soon as you get home, you can plug it into your TV and play within seconds.
Yeah, because correctly the Wii had to be close to the actual Wii console, correct?
Well, the Wii U, because
So
remember
the
the Wii
Wii U
U was the
wasn't
console and
portable.
the
Yeah.
screen. Yeah, you can only
Yes.
carry it maybe 10 meters before it lost
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah. So you obviously, and that's where I think that was the problem with that Wii U is if you could have had the Wii U as like a PSP style sort of thing, would have been better in the way. Like
Yes.
if that was fully portable, but then you could connect it to and again, obviously that is what the bloody Switch is, and they probably
Mm.
worked out after that, like guys, we need to do this now. Um, so your first thoughts when the Switch came out, you were obviously happy, and did you get that straight away? Was that a pre-order?
No, I usually wait until a few good games come out onto my consoles before I get
Yeah,
them. So I waited to get my Switch until I think late 2018 when Super
yeah,
Smash Brothers came out.
yeah.
Because all the other games that were ported originally for the Switch I already had on my Wii U.
Oh,
So I was like, don't really see the point. But I'm slowly kind of getting the Switch versions now
yeah.
as it becomes more popular.
Yeah, because I still think before we get into games specifically, whenever I still go to JB and you look online, and I've got your generic Switch games that every Tom, Dick, and sort of Harry has, there's really still like not that much of a catalog, or is it just it's like the Wii specific, it's the Nintendo specific games that the Switch is really popular with? Like, I feel like none of your mainstream sort of games ever get onto that, even though it's a HD console. I'm just guessing maybe its power is not there to run any bigger games. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
Well, to be honest, the Nintendo 64 had a lot of third-party games. So did the
Yeah,
GameCube, the Wii, Wii U, and Switch don't have as many third-party games. I mean, they're slowly being released onto the
mm,
Switch now. Lots of remakes
yeah,
now come on, like BioShock remake
yeah,
and the Borderlands remake are slowly making their way into the console. But I think in the last few generations, Nintendo have prided themselves on first-party games. You know, the Mario games, the Pokemon games, and any
yeah,
kind of spin-off Metroid, Zelda. So I think that's, those games are quality enough to kind of keep people, not worrying too much about third party games, because the games Nintendo make
yeah,
are such high quality that
yeah.
I don't care if they get a Zelda game every 4 or 5 years or a Mario game every couple of years, because they're so good that they will wait around and keep their console until the next Nintendo game.
Yeah, because I do enjoy all of the specific games the Switch does have from Nintendo. Like I really do enjoy them.
Mm.
But because I even just got like typical me, I got FIFA on the bloody Switch because I took it away with me, and it's like it's clearly, and I think they also say in the back somewhere, it's like gameplay is from FIFA 17 or FIFA 8. Like you can just tell
Mm.
it's like we haven't even put a second into this. We're just re-releasing this each year and just hoping people come through. But I guess that's fine um, in a way anyway. So it's not too bad. I don't mind it. So no, we're going to go into our list of sort of games. Mace, do you want to go through? Is it your top five, or do you want to just talk about
Yeah.
games sort of individually, or you
Yeah. So
just
I
break it down?
reckon if you're going to pick up some Switch games, I reckon we'll go into a top five.
Yeah.
What we're talking about today is we're not talking about online multiplayer. We're talking
No.
about couch co-op. So
Yeah.
you're having your mate in the same room. So those kind of games. But before we go into it, our top five, just want to give a few honourable mentions.
Yeah.
So if these are all games you should all definitely pick up.
Yeah.
But I think there's about two that I'd like just to briefly mention, and
Yeah.
that's
You've got your
Overcooked
two.
2 Yeah, which is a fun kind of cooking game that you can
Yeah.
play with your mate on the couch.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a bird's eye view cooking
Yeah.
game where you're playing as little characters, cutting up little things, and you can
Yeah.
work together to kind of cook different recipes.
Yeah.
And then there's Splatoon 2, which is the closest you'll get to a shooter on the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
So it's a third-person shooter where instead of guns, you might have seen this, Will, where you've got a paintbrush or a paint gun,
Yeah.
and it's got single players probably not worth it, but for the online multiplayer, it's pretty amazing. So there's classic spins on, what your normal kind of multiplayer game modes are. But there's turf wars where you've got your paint gun. There's two sides, and you've got the person who paints the most of the area with their weapon wins the game. And at the end, it tallies how much paint across the map, whether it's purple or the orange.
Yeah.
And that whoever's painted the most wins. And it's got a few twists. You can sink into your own paint to regain ammo, and then you can pop up and move around in that, which adds a few different tactics from your normal standard shooter. But very fun. I'm still playing this to this day, about 3 years after it's been released. And very good online multiplayer, but not part of my top 5.
Okay, interesting, because I think that's always it's sort of like there isn't many straight up, like you're saying, shooters and stuff, because the Switch is like a family-friendly console in a way. Reminds me of like a Disney Plus movie. There's not much blood or guts or something. So
Yeah,
they
it's
got to
very
find
similar. It's the Nintendo Switch is the Disney Plus
of streaming
the
or
gaming
consoles. Yeah, because I feel like you have to do other things people want to shooting game, but you have to give other ways of doing it. No, I think like you said before, just clarifying, these are your friend games, having people over. The other one I wanted to talk about myself, because just for everyone's point, I've got a lot of Switch games, but I don't always play the Switch as much. I play more of our top 3 or 4 we've picked, but I did get that was something that really interested me, and I remember playing the original Marvel Ultimate Alliances back on like the PS2, etc. So Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, the Black Order, came out last year, and I've played sort of 3/4 of the way through it. Good for individual play, so you can obviously play just by yourself, but it is also much more fun to have someone else with you in the room. Now, the only thing I find a little bit of a struggle with it is when you play with other people, is I feel like it's a very individual game, but it's easy just to pick up with someone else. I don't know if you could play the whole game with someone else and go through the whole story, if that makes
Is there certain parts that kind of throw the second player out? Is there?
Oh, no, it's just that the whole thing is 4 players at once. So there's 4 characters always in the same battle. So it's just, it's like a linear story. Like you have to go to this spot, then you have to defeat them, you have to go to there. So, but I don't know if I picked it up and you and I started to play from the first one and we just worked our way through it together. If we did that, maybe it would be more fun. No, I think it's an enjoyable game. Clearly, they threw in Thanos and the Black Order to tie in with Avengers.
Keep it up.
So cheeky buggers, but a lot of playable characters right now. So throws in the Guardians, throws in sort of X-Men, Fantastic Four characters. I haven't unlocked them all yet. Throws in a lot of the bad guys. So it's pretty much nearly every big Marvel character is in it, and you can play through. So getting to play those characters is fun, enjoyable. All of them have very distinct powers, and you can see a lot of work sort of being connected into that. So it's an interesting game. Characters are very cartoony, so don't always 100%.
How would you describe the game? Is it strategic? Is it, is it bird's eye view, first person?
It is more, for me, it's a button bash. For me, it's just a massive button bash. And I think my biggest problem with it is I pick up and play very irregularly. So it's like to get and understand the controls again, I have to sort of slowly build up into it. And I think if I played, like, cause I remember I got it and I played through for like a couple of days and got pretty far through and everything was good. And then I reckon it was like a 2K or a FIFA came out. And then I stopped playing for a bit. And then I'd pick it up occasionally and I'd sort of struggle because I need to get into it again. It's definitely more of like a bird's eye view sort of higher sort of angle, looking at all the characters that are going on. But no, I think it's enjoyable time, and one that you and I should probably, next time you come over, we'll have a bit of a button bash and play through. So you can tell, though, I was intrigued that it's just a Switch game because I could see it previously they were on PlayStation and Xbox, the original too. So, no, an interesting one. But we'll get into our top 5 now, Mace.
So I like to say that maybe 4 and 5 might differ, but I think Nintendo clearly has a very clear set of the top 3 in which a lot of people can probably guess now, but are very defining and fantastic couch co-op games. But number 5, I've got Super Mario Deluxe.
Yeah,
So that's your classic 2D Mario game. So
yeah,
this is number 5. And you can play it. The best bit is, unlike previous iterations, there was one before this you could play with a partner, but this one, one person plays as Mario, the other person can kind of choose their character, Luigi, Peach, whatnot, Toad. And it's your classic run and jump coins, 2D platformer. You can play through all the levels together with a friend. That includes all the boss battles. And it's fun, it requires a bit of strategy. Make sure your partner jumps at the same time. It's quite forgiving at the same time. But it's cute. And anyway, once again, similar to many games in this list, it's really easy to pick up. A's jump, you move along, side scrolling. And if you played a Mario game before, you'll be pretty familiar with it. Personally, I didn't really grow up with the 2D Mario games. I was more Mario Sunshine, Mario 64. But no, I definitely recommend this. So this came out early last year, and is very similar to the Wii U version. But yeah, no, lots of fun. And especially if the person's not very good at games, I think this is pretty simplistic to kind of just pick up and go, especially for those younger kids.
Does it have a lot of replayability? Like once you finish it, the game through, is it does it have, can you just then, is it fun to then go start from the start again?
Yes, it is. Yeah. But then saying that, there's lots of, you can always, with Mario games, you can do little time trials for yourself and mix up the gameplay. So there's got lots of replayability as well.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's good. I haven't. To be honest with you guys, I haven't played this one yet. I don't think. I haven't played.
No, that's fine. But what's your number 5, Cutts?
Well, I would say at the moment, this is my biggest thing. Is my number 5. I'm going to jump off your list a little bit here anyway, because I'm more of our top 2 or 3 that we've got in here. So,
do you want to hold off until we get
there? Yeah. Because in the end, my more replayability and my top 5 games, I would say, is pretty much bang on with yours. Because I think Marvel's Avengers would probably be my 5th one there. But I think I need to play that more with another person. And really get it. So go into your number 4 now, Matt.
Yeah, so number 4 was only released Halloween last year. So that's Luigi's Mansion 3.
Yeah.
So you don't need to play the other Luigi's Mansion really to get the gist of this. So it's Luigi in this one. He's kind of gone to a luxurious hotel. So it should be called Luigi's Hotel 3. And Mario and Peach all get kidnapped and put into a frame.
Yeah.
And King Boo is the main villain of this game. So he's kind of only been the villain of the Mansion series. And Luigi has to go with his poltergeister, which is very similar to Ghostbusters. You have to go and suck up all these different ghosts and go and find Mario and Peach and essentially save the day. So, and I thought this was really fun. I've played the first one back in 2000. I haven't played one since. I haven't played Dark Moon or anything on the 3DS. So it's really fun, really fun. Pretty basic controls. It's no Super Mario Deluxe. There's a bit of an edge learning curve in terms of, sucking up the ghost. You have to put the control in one direction while you hold another one down to actually get the ghost. And each floor, there's 17 floors, each with their own level design. So there's an Egyptian level. There's a botanist level. There's a dancing disco level where Luigi's dancing with all these ghosts. So it's a lot of fun, and you can do couch co-op. So a second person can play as Luigi. So they just push the start button, buzz in, which is a green version of Luigi that the game needs to progress through puzzles, and you can go through drain pipes to unlock a gate for Luigi, and little things like that. So it's a good strategy game between you and your friend, and there's also kind of competitive co-op as well in the multiplayer suite, where you can kind of go through different floors and compete with your mate against who can catch as many ghosts as possible. But I know I loved it. I wasn't expecting much when I downloaded it, but it's a lot of fun.
So the biggest thing for me with a lot of these games too is I look at the Switch price point for a lot of the games and go like, is it value for because I know there's obviously the 1 or 2 ones at the top. I think have a lot of replayability, and you're sort of looking at, for example, it's I'm just trying to think. Sorry, it's just bloody people freaking messaging me from work about stuff. But you're looking at your main one or two, and I don't want to give away our list, but I see them as a lot of like, I can sit down on the couch and go, we want to play this. Would you go up to someone, or you're having someone over and go, let's play Luigi's Mansion 3? Is that a thing over the top of the other games?
Not if you finished it with your friend. I don't
Okay.
think once you finish the story in about 12 hours, I don't think there's a whole lot of reason to go back. You can
Yeah.
go and hunt down some booze, collect some crystals, which
Yeah.
unlocks you minor variations of like a lamp with boo on it
Yeah.
or a crystal kind of poltergeist sucker.
Yeah.
But nothing really to give you that incentive enough to kind of go through it again. But that's why it's got the co-op and the multiplayer suite that you
Yeah.
play online.
Yeah.
That adds a bit of replay value, and there's some DLC for that too. But I would say compared to other stuff on the list, I would say Luigi's Mansion doesn't really come close in terms of replayability.
Okay, cool. So your number 3, and this is where I come a little bit more into it. And now this is probably one of the games I love playing, but I am the worst person in the world at it, and I bloody suck. And I've never understood it. I've never got it. Playing back from old days on the Wii to bloody every single ever console that this game has been on, I've sucked. And I think it's one of those ones I've just never really done it, and I've always been behind. So Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this? That's basically my thoughts. Is I enjoy playing the game, but I think my enjoyability, I don't know if the game gives a lot to people who never play it before against people who have always played it. So I think it's tough when like you and I can come on and you're much better than I am.
But at the same time, I
yeah,
think it's a very versatile, accessible fighter compared to
yeah,
something like Street Fighter or Mortal
yeah,
Kombat.
yeah,
I think a lot of people can just a lot more easily pick this
yeah,
up and relatively be good at it. No offense to you,
yeah,
but I think it's a pretty amazing franchise. Like I've played every one on Nintendo 64,
yeah,
GameCube, whatnot. So and Ultimate brings back all the maps from the previous 4 Super Smash
yeah,
Brothers. And so you've got
yeah,
all the maps and every single character. So starting off without the DLC, there's 70 plus characters that you can choose from, 74, I think, which is a huge roster. Like
yeah,
you'd be hard to come by a fighting game that has this many characters and this many maps straight out of the box.
yeah,
And I think it's very accessible. You can button mash or you can go with some strategy. You know, this game has a huge following of
yeah,
professional players as well in the E-League, who know how to, do air dashes and blocks and all this kind of stuff, amazing stuff. But like you and me, we're more button mashers and you can still get away with it and still finish, the story or,
yeah.
a level 9 difficulty player quite easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think? What do you think kind of
Well,
coming into this generation and this game? What are your original views?
so I think the hardest thing for me is with all of this is I was not a Nintendo. Like I didn't have a GameCube, didn't have that when I was growing up. So I was always came behind when I'd play Super Smash Brothers with people. So that's like my whole point before is because I'm not great at it, I think I'd need to play it by myself a bit to understand the basics. Whereas whenever I get into the game, I just start just button bashing for fun. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I'm just always playing catch up where I'm like, I reckon if I actually sat down before playing it with people and understood the buttons, because I like start button bashing and then I'm like, oh, that does that. Let's continue doing this. Or so I sort of struggle in those respects. And like, I enjoy the game. I enjoy the experience. And it's got an awesome amount of replayability because I'm just more happy with the 2 or 3 people that I'm sitting with playing the game and enjoying it with.
Yeah.
I think just because it's similar to me playing a Call of Duty game. Like I suck at shooting games. It's not even funny like how bad. You and I play Halo and I'm just shit. Like,
Yeah, but how about COD? You were pretty good at COD.
Nah, I'm sure. See, I'm fine at COD. I just give up because like once I get down and I'm like 1 kill to 4 deaths, I'm just like I can't get back into this now. And I think more I enjoy sometimes like the COD games or whatever, and because in Super Smash Brothers you can play in teams, correct? Also, or is it just always?
Yes, you can play in teams.
Yes, I think I'm better in the.
Yeah.
I'm better in the team games because someone can carry me. Than a individual one. Like I enjoy playing COD if it's like capture the flag or team deathmatch, etc. Because I feel like some games I can do really well, whereas if it's just me versus 15 other people, I'm like I can't do this. Like I know I'm going to die and I'm not going to have as much fun. So, and I enjoy the characters you can play as, and it's one of those games. Like, I won't, obviously, we're not talking about playing it by yourself. And yes, and I think it has a cultural connection with people. I think this game, like
it does. And I mean, in this one too, there's a single player aspect called World of Light, which is you going around almost a 2-dimensional art board, trying to battle different variations of different characters, with a very brief story kind of thrown in between light and dark. It's pretty rushed, or not necessarily rushed, but it's very much the kind of multiplayer just thrown kind of into a story very lightly. But that's good for people coming in who are playing by themselves. But I think, once again, this is a multiplayer game, it's born to be a multiplayer game. And it's got so many characters. Like, I'd love to know your favorite character, Will. But, we've got the Mario series. It's brought in Sonic over the years. Pac-Man. Banjo-Kazooie came in through DLC last year. It's got the dog and the duck from that shooter arcade game that everyone's forgotten about. But, why not? Let's put them in there. It's got so many different series and franchises as part of it, which also makes it very unique.
Where's the playable characters? Who's my favorite?
You'll be there for a while.
No, I'm just looking now. When you're like, why does it just give me a bloody list of the playable characters? It's giving me a paragraph, bloody Wikipedia. Just give me a bloody list. Here we go, characters. I've clicked the wrong one. Who's the one that does...
You're a serious veteran. Yeah.
No, again, this is my problem with this game, is I know the characters by look. I don't know their names.
Okay.
So,
you can describe them. I'll try.
Yeah, but I'm just... I'm going to go photo. Can I go photos? Let me go here. There's something here.
There's so many different characters over the years. There's Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy, characters like we just said from Splatoon.
But I think this is the thing for me about this series is it's like I can remember random birth dates of footballers. Like I can't remember a name of this. The one who looks like the Iron Man-y type of guy.
Meta Knight.
Yeah, him. He's my favorite.
From Kirby, the big bowl with the cape.
Yes, I think that's the guy I'm talking about.
Who's just really fast and you can almost hack and slash button mash. Yeah, that would make sense actually.
Yeah, I'm a button basher.
Yeah.
That's the guy I'm talking about. So no, I think that's always the problem with this game is I would not know. No, that's not who I'm talking about.
All right, okay.
No,
let me know when you get to it.
Yeah, I'm like looking through all the names here, and I'm like, who is it?
And the best part is, Sakurai, the director of the game, he's constantly adding new characters, and there's the DLC pack 2 that's coming out, later this year and into next year as well with 6 new characters.
Samus.
Oh, you got it?
Samus. Was it Seamus?
You mean Samus?
Samus, that's the one.
Wow. Samus. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an Iron Man. He looks like an Iron Man type of character to me.
I guess you could say that. Yeah, very similar. But it's actually a she, Will. It's actually a girl.
Oh, sorry. Iron Woman.
Yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow's in that suit. Samus is a good character. No, good choice.
I think that's just more because that for me is a button, because I just button bash in this. So that's that's my character that I would pick. And like I say, I enjoy the game. It's a good pick up and play with your mates.
Yeah. So as you know, you can tell my love for the game just through hearing this. So yeah, if you got a few mates and you're in the store and you think, Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, might give this a try, I highly recommend it. Yeah. Even if you don't like fighting games to that extent, I still think it's got enough content and there just to last for a very, very long time. And even if you just like yourself, button mash, or you're a pro player, I think it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Perfection. So number 2, and again, I think we all know what the clear number 1 is because I'm better at it than you. But number 2 is Mario Party, both on our list. One of our sort of
Super Mario Party.
Super Mario Party. Sorry, the correct wording there. But no, I think Mario Party, straight up for me, is just like we've got a couple of hours to kill, and this is just going to be fun because I enjoy it. Like it's a bloody good game. Like it's so much fun. And I think it's one of those games too that's like this can create some serious family problems. Like
if just like Monopoly,
you can
ruin families because of this game.
And now, again, there's obviously, like you said, there's been millions of iterations too of this series of games. Is this one of your favorite Mario parties, or where does it rank in your Mario
Well, as
party
far as
sets?
Mario parties go, at this stage, as this is only one on the Switch, I would
Yeah,
say pick it up
yeah,
as a party game. But it's by far not my favorite. I mean, there's
yeah,
been, I think it was something like 10 prior to this.
yeah,
First one was Nintendo 64, and I love 1, 2, and 3. I still
yeah,
think they're the best.
yeah,
Maybe 4 on the GameCube. But between, I think, 8, 9, and 10, it kind of, you didn't have your own player. I think you're
yeah,
all as part of the same cart.
yeah,
So you all roll the dice together, you move around the map
yeah,
together. So this one's gone back to its roots, and there's 4 separate players across the board,
yeah,
which I love again
yeah,
over those last installments. But no, it's not my favorite. There's only 5 maps. I
yeah,
think that's what holds it back. It's quite
yeah,
limited in content. There's no DLC pass for this game announced yet, which is really disappointing.
yeah,
So they might release Super Mario Party 2 or something,
yeah,
or the 12th one sometime in the future. But yeah, I think that's the only thing that holds it back. I still think it's a great Mario Party game at its core in terms of gameplay.
yeah.
It just needs a bit more content.
Yeah, I would have to nearly agree because I played it not that long ago back at home because my Switch is sitting at the parents at the moment, so we always have something to do when we're there. But playing it, I really enjoy the experience. But some of the previous ones, like you said, there's a lot more maps, and you don't. Sometimes in the last times I've picked it up, I'm like, oh, I've just played that map, or we just played that map, or we're
Mm,
getting these games again, these mini games and stuff. And I
yeah.
know it's difficult to like. Are they using a lot of mini games previously? Because I didn't play a lot of the first one, two, three, four. Are they using a lot of those old previous mini games, or is it all new created mini games essentially?
It's all new created mini games. I mean, sure, you have to run out of ideas at some
Yeah,
stage. So there are some that
yeah,
share similar ideas, but they are completely new in terms of design and
yeah,
appearance and how you play them with the Switch controls. So that all is original. And just in case anyone's just a bit confused what Mario Party is, it's a virtual board game.
yeah,
And you roll the dice, your player moves forward,
yeah.
you collect coins on the way, and after everyone's had a turn, you play a little mini game, which is a little short 2-minute game. That How would you
Some would
describe
say
it? That
two.
you
Some
wouldn't
would say
lose.
2 minutes is a long time, Jack.
Stop with these jokes. But yeah, and whoever wins that gets some more coins. And the whole idea is the person who collects the most stars on the board. So there's a little toad with the star in front of them, and if you land on it, you pay 20 coins for a star. Then they move somewhere else on the board, and the person who goes around and buys
Yeah,
the most stars wins at the end of how many turns the player
yeah.
decides.
So when we play this, always, I think it's one of those hard ones because a lot of people always just go the 10 turns or whatever.
Yeah, because it's short, it's brief.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's brief, and whereas I don't think you get enough out of the game in a 10-turn game. Like when you're doing like a 40-turn game, you're like, this takes bloody forever.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's really sometimes the hard part of this game is like you could dominate a 10-turn round and then just lose because the game decides to give this person 3 stars. Like I sometimes like
Yeah.
I hate that aspect of it sometimes because I get really competitive with my Mario Party. Um,
Yeah. It does get me angry. I'm not an angry person, but
uh,
when, someone gets a star for no reason on the board,
yeah,
or
yeah,
someone wins a stupid mini game because I stuff up, just due to a minor mistake, I do get pretty pissed.
yeah.
So it is your classic board game in that regard that, you're you can be quite affected by it.
Is it one for you though that you would prefer to play with 4 people than 2 and 2 computer? Is that a thing? Like you'd prefer to have 4 people in the
Oh
game?
yeah, actually, out of all the games on this list, while
Yeah,
this game does have computer players, I think you do need people
yeah,
to play this game.
yeah.
It does not even come close to being fun with by yourself.
No, no, not at all. When we talk about our number one, you can play that by yourself, and that can
Mm.
be fine. Whereas I think this year here you need to have 3 minimum, 2 to 3. Even with
Oh
two, it's
yeah.
just not as
Mm.
fun because it's that whole point of the 4 of you playing against each other in the mini games what makes this fun. And I think
Mm.
sometimes the computer, and then you either put the computer on hard or whatever the hardest setting is, and then they're sometimes either like ridiculous, but you put them on like a middle setting, and they're just so easy to like. It doesn't give that
No.
connection as much. So, and I think you
Mm.
can't play this game individually. I know we're not talking about playing games individually, but I don't believe you really can play this game by yourself.
Yeah, and it
Like,
tries to mix up the formula with a few different modes. Did you
yeah,
play that rowing one where you're in the rowing boat and you got to
yeah,
steer into different mini games and points? Yeah, I mean they've tried to put a spin on it to hide the lack of content and
yeah,
maps. But there's a few little diversions there. It's definitely worth a pick up, especially if it's on sale. Like it's currently $60 on the Nintendo shop.
Yeah.
But you can find it cheaper. You can probably find it for $50 on Amazon, which is
No,
good deal.
I think it's at this time it is a perfect. You got four mates over, and at any age you can play this. It's not like, pardon me, you could have four guys over in your mid-20s like we are, and you could all go, yeah, well, let's play some Mario Party, and as you would say, have a couple of beers, crack open.
Maybe it's a good pre's game. Yeah.
It actually is a very good pre's game when we can actually get out and about at some point. So moving on into our number one, I think it's everyone
take a wild
would say,
guess, everyone, what this might be.
And I'm the world champion of this, Mario Kart Deluxe edition. So was it Mario Kart 8 Deluxe?
It's Mario Kart 8 on the Nintendo, on the Wii U, but it's essentially all the DLC was packaged as part of Mario Kart 8 and re-released on the Switch as Mario Kart Deluxe.
Okay, perfect. So straight up thoughts on the greatest game ever released.
Oh, I love it. This is another franchise that's been going on since the 64 era, actually before that on the NES era. So it's been going on for a very long time, but this one's almost the pinnacle of it. They've, found, just the right amount of, maps and different carts and different ways to customize your cart that keeps the longevity of the gameplay going for a long time. It's balanced as well. Whereas I remember playing Double Dash back in the day and there was, a few things where I thought were quite unfair, but this is, perfectly balanced. There's no cart or no character that's better than one another.
Yeah.
And with the DLC from Mario Kart 8 all thrown into this package on the Switch, there's once again similar to Super Smash. There's so many different maps. Got the classic Rainbow Road and your desert dunes and your Yoshi world map. So it's I can't rate this game highly enough.
No, I for me, in someone that loves this for me, like in a way, came back into my life a little bit in the old. I always thought like it's one of those games where everyone thinks they're really good. Like everyone sort of comes up and you're like, oh, I'm real good at this.
And that shows accessibility plus. Everyone thinks it's a master. That's what you want everyone to think when they play a game.
Especially in a pick up and play stuff, because you and I have some ridiculously good battles in this, and you would always cheat using your Wii U because I'd then be stuck on the Wii remote and it wasn't fair. But at least with the Switch, we're all even there. But no, I think it's such a great game that you can have. And it highlighted for me, we started playing it on Christmas Day here. We had Christmas at my place, and it was like 18 of us over, and we just started playing, and everyone wanted to have a shot and everyone wanted to have a go, and people weren't understanding what was going on, and Dad had never played it and didn't understand how the bloody Switch worked and all this stuff. And then after one or two races, like he got the hang of it and was actually not too bad. And I think, like you said, it's always, instead of having like a lot of DLC in a way, the fact is that when you unlock a new cart or you unlock something, like it feels like after every race you're getting something for playing. It's like a reward factor around it, and it keeps you interested, even though, like you're saying, I'm just looking at a website here that does say like, oh, this cart is a little better than this cart, or obviously like little tweaks, like not massive, but there are little things apparently obviously to them once you start sort of looking into it. And I'm no expert by any fact, but it does have so many good game modes, so many different carts, so many different ways that you can play this. And it also is quite an enjoyable online participating game, even by yourself. Like it is quite, and when you win like a 200cc race online, you're like, whoa, I'm real good. Like you're real up and about. I remember I won one, whatever the hardest thing is, I won one a couple of months ago at the start of quarantine. And I was like, oh God, I'm good. I reckon I can't play this ever again. Like I think I'm real good at this. So no, I think it's a fun game and it's enjoyable. And this is straight away when I think about the Switch. If you're turning on my Switch, I'd say 9 times out of 10, this little game is in there. Like,
what pisses you off, Will? That last minute banana, that blue shell that you're coming first for the first 3 laps, and that comes and hits you just before you cross the finish line. I've never seen you angry or me angrier when something like that happens. I'm fucking pissed.
Oh yeah, you and I have some good ones in this, because I think that's the beauty of it though, is really they try and make it so. I think sometimes it's the beauty, but it's also the stuff nature of it. They try and make it so fair. Like you can be last and then get a bloody mother effing rocket, and you get
Bullet
yourself to
bill. Yeah.
and you get to third, and it's just like that's not fair. Like, how is that fair? This guy sucks. But
Mm.
and that's where I think it's actually quite a fun game to play online because it is 12 people. Whereas when we're playing, there's obviously just 4 of us, unless you can connect that multiple other switches. But
Yeah.
there is it's just the computer. So, but when you are playing online, or you've at least got your 4, it is a really fun and enjoyable game to play. And so it can get heated. We all love some maps more than others. And I feel like some of these maps aren't as hard though, like the Rainbow Roads and stuff aren't as hard as previously.
Oh, well, that's the best bit about this one. It includes remade Rainbow Roads from the 64,
Yeah,
the Wii, and its own one for this game as well.
yeah.
So with the DLC, it brings back a whole lot of reinventions of that map in particular.
And I think just the easy things, like it's got battle modes, it's got different courses, it's got all these things. Like, plus again, your old ghost races, where what gives it enjoyability. I know we're talking, like I've said before, we're talking about group games, but you can pick up and play this one yourself. Like, it is a perfect sort of you can just play it by yourself. I think
The
that gives
AI
it,
is good enough to give
yeah,
you a challenge, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah, and it is always challenging you. So it's not like you, even if you win and you set a really good ghost race, that next one is still difficult. Like, it's still harder. Like, it is difficult to continue and get better. What I enjoy that. So I think in the end it's a fun game and a worthy number one. And if you're sitting at home right now and you need something to do, something to play, it's for me is a perfect family pick up and play, because you can play this with all 4 of you. You can play this with your grandpa. You really could, and that's the beauty of the Switch. Any other points on this one, Mace?
Yeah, well, there's just so many different characters, as well. If you're a kid mixing it up, you can play as even Zelda in this one as well.
Yeah,
And Isabelle from Animal Crossing. So it does bring in, those not multiple Nintendo generations and putting them almost into one game as well, similar to Super Smash. But no, fantastic game. Like I said, anyone can pick it up, even if you come in last. If you manage to get a question mark cube, you'll get an item that will put you to the front. So skill will only get you to so far in this game in a way. It does play a big part, but at the same time, I think, your 5-year-old niece, not that young, could catch up to you relatively fast, regardless of how much you play this game, if she knows what she's doing and not crashing into walls the whole time. So, incredible game. Obviously, even if you don't like racing or kart games, I think this is even just a good start to see if you like the genre, because it doesn't get any better than this in terms of racing games or kart games.
And I think the biggest thing for me is connecting it with, like, I'm not a massive racing guy. I'm not great at racing games.
Neither am I.
Like,
I hate racing games, to be honest. Yeah.
And you pick this up and it doesn't feel like 100% a racing game to me, even though obviously that is the complete nature of the bloody game. So for me, that is a great aspect of it, and that's what I really enjoy. And it nails the family fun atmosphere and the replayability. Because I'd say, how many times have we bloody played it, and it's fun every single time. And it's obviously very difficult for games to bloody do that too. Like, that's not an easy thing to do.
No, we've played the same map so many times. Every time we do it, it feels pretty fresh, doesn't it? So you still get the satisfaction of a good power slide around a corner.
Ooh.
Or, like you said, unlocking those parts after you finish the game by getting those coins. Yeah, no, it's amazing.
So that's our top 5. Again, you can have a look at that sort of list on our website when you put it up, or again, give us a review and tell us what your thoughts are. So we've got images on all of our social platforms. So tell us what your top 5 are, and we can read them out next week. And it'll be another top 5 list if you go into our highlights. So you can go into our highlights and screenshot that, then write your top 5 in there, and we'll reshare it. So it's a good little bit of interaction.
Yeah. So if you manage to get your hands on the Switch during quarantine, which apparently is very, very hard to do, grab your Switch and grab, these 5s to, 8 games that we've recommended today. And I don't think you'll have to worry about work or life ever again. You'll be set.
You will be set. So we will move now into our show and tell segment for the week, and what we've been watching over the last week since the last podcast. So, Mace, what's one thing that you've been watching and recommending?
So with my new Apple Plus subscription, we've started the morning show, or
Yeah,
as it's called in Australia, as I found, Morning Wars,
yeah,
with Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon and Steve Carell. Um, I just want to say it's bloody fantastic,
yeah.
really well done. I guess because Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon were being paid $2 million an episode to
Oh,
produce and star in this, so they're well set. And season 2's coming out, so they're rolling the dough. Um, so it picks up after the Me Too movement, and Steve Carell. First episode, Steve Carell's done for some sexual misconduct and
yeah,
at the morning show in New York, and he's been fired. And it's all the different people in the studio kind of dealing with this,
yeah,
and finding out if who knows about it. And to kind of replace him is Reese Witherspoon,
yeah,
and she's a bit rough.
yeah,
She wants to tell truthful journalism, whereas a lot of people at the studio just want a happy gimmicky story
yeah,
that people are satisfied with, but she wants to get to nitty gritty, and it's kind of showing how that works in the studio dynamics between her views on journalism versus everyone else's, and just the inconsistencies about the Me Too movement and
yeah,
how Steve Carell just thinks that it was all consensual.
yeah,
And was it? I
yeah,
think that's the big debate about the Me Too movement, is that he thinks it's perfectly fine. The girls were happy to do it at the
yeah,
time, but at the end of the day, was it right?
yeah,
That's up to discussion. So no, it's hits the big points, and really good, especially for journalists like you and me, mate.
yeah,
And always want to be that Carl Stefanovic.
yeah,
It gives you a good insight to how the morning shows run at the same time, and very high quality, 10 episodes, hour each. Yeah, no, very good. And season 2's on its way, so at least it's not a season thing. You can
yeah.
still pick it up when season 2's released later this year.
Yeah, I think because I did not know. Like again, this is the thing here in like Australia. Like Apple TV's been around a bit, but it's not been a massive thing for people to really get. I don't know how many subscribers. So obviously, they're pretty much handing it out with every
They
Apple
are, yeah.
device that you bloody have, hoping that you'll keep it like a long term thing. No, this is one that I 100% I think is on my list, and I think the rest of the family has already watched it. So no. From the looks of it, very good. And I enjoy how in Australia, obviously, we've had to change it to the Morning Wars since we already have a TV show called The Morning Show.
Yeah. This one's
So,
a lot better though than the morning show.
yeah, 100%. So, no, this is on my list, and I think when are they saying season 2 is coming out?
Oh, I think once again, Corona's thrown it out.
Yeah.
So I think it was aimed for sometime end of this year, but I think 2022 is looking like a likely date.
Okay. Interesting. So, no, a very, very good topic. Anything else you've watched this week? Was that it?
No, apart
Yeah.
from Morning Show,
Yeah.
I've still, watching Defending Jacob on a
Yeah.
episode by episode basis, and that's coming up to its last episode this Friday. So family's getting very keen to watch
Yeah.
that. So no, lots of Apple Plus series, but not much apart from that.
So I started to watch the new Snowpiercer
Yes,
that
I want
was
to get into
released
that.
on Netflix. So I'm not sure again if that. I think it's in Australia as a Netflix show. Um,
So does that so just tell me as well, because I don't know myself. Does that follow on from the movie, or is it original
no,
characters with a
it's
similar
it's
plot?
it's original again. So it tells the story very very quickly of what's going on. And oh, sorry, it's only 2 episodes have been released, but release at TNT in the United States. So I think it's for us is Netflix over here in Australia. So no, it's still developed and screenplays by Bong Joon-ho. So again, who did Parasite. So and who did the original Snowpiercer. So this has been in development hell for a really long time. And I enjoy the way this is done. So basically, the premise is again, if you know about Snowpiercer, that the world is freezing over, and that scientists effectively did that because they tried to cool down the Earth because of global warming, essentially, and they cooled it down too much and created another ice age. And this one person, in the end, Mr. Wolford, has created a train that goes around the world that keeps the human race sort of going. And I think they're saying, I don't know exactly how many people they say is on this train, but it might be like 3,000 or something. It's a bit bigger than I think the original and the movie was, but I'm not 100% sure. But the first episode sort of takes you through the people at the back that in the end, so the way they tell it in this one is it was for the rich. like the 6-star class bought tickets onto this train when everything was sort of going south, with the world sort of freezing over. And then some people revolted and jumped into the baggage areas of the train at the back. That's basically the way they've showed it, and they fought their way onto the back of the train. And they had to shut off that end, and those people live in the baggage carts at the back of
Not
the
too much
train.
spoilers. Yeah.
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 And they slowly get fed, etc. But they're struggling to reproduce. It's been a number of years, and people are slowly dying and obviously depressed. And these people at the start anyway weren't very well off, and this is the only way that they could survive. We get basically the story kicks off because there's a murder in the first episode, higher up in the first classes.
Keeping the stakes high from episode 1. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they have to get effectively one of the main characters used to be a police officer and a detective. So they take him from the back of the train and bring him to the front, and he has to solve this murder for the people on the train and Mr. Wilford. So again, I actually really quite enjoyed it. It shows, as a typical first episode pilot does, all the different spots in the train. And effectively, I kind of enjoyed the fact that from the original movie that came out a couple of years ago with Chris Evans in it, I was always like, oh, okay, so how do you get from one end to the other? Do you have to walk past everything? It shows pretty early that there's like a tunnel underneath everything. So you can sort of get from one end, like it's what I think is going to play a bit of a part later on, or you can get to certain parts by going through these sort of tunnels underneath and above. And the world seems interesting, and it shows again that they're sort of struggling, that the train tracks are sort of icing over as years go by, and that it is becoming more and more dangerous, and people are revolting from even first class, second class, third class, all the way to the back, and sort of how they play out on that. And I've got a sneaking suspicion again, like the main character is going to probably, no, I'll leave it anyway. But I think it's an interesting watch.
So recommend it though to people maybe who like sci-fi, or just to the general audience?
I'd recommend to the general audience at this point for probably try and smash through the first 2 have come out, and then I think the next 2 are being released at the same time. So I'd say maybe get through 4, and if you enjoy it, that will probably be what I'm doing too.
Yeah.
Because the element of the murder mystery side of it, I think, keeps you intrigued over the overarching plot of what's going on. Whereas I think the movie, I tried to remember a bit more about the movie, and you've seen the movie, haven't you?
Yeah, I love the movie.
Yeah, I love the movie too. But it's sort of more just getting from front to back, whereas this here is sort of teasing the fact that the main character is already up there and he's having to come back and front, and sort of the divide of, do I just stay up the front here, or do I feel like a traitor if I don't go back, and how I've got to help them get out, and how that sort of works is an interesting dynamic. And I enjoy the fact of the murder sort of aspect on it, because it keeps you sort of intrigued. Again, it shows
the movie has a big cult following, doesn't it? Really,
yeah, massive cult following,
big popularity. Yeah.
And I think the aspect of it that it's obviously very dark, and it doesn't shy away from some really interesting sort of themes and topics. And at moments, even in the first episode, it's like they're going to kill kids and stuff, and you're like, oh, here we go, wow, like. But it's everyone's there to survive, and it's tough, and just class structure. And I think that's why people love the movie and the idea, and that's why this sort of idea will always continue to move around. And no, I think it's quite interesting, and the actors play it very well, and that's why I think I'm interested to give it episode 3 and 4 and see if I really do enjoy it. The other one, and I think, sorry, we spoke about it before. Anyway, I don't know. I would have probably preferred this to be a binge and just getting through it straight away. I think I would have been really into it and gone, okay. Whereas I may drop off this if episode 3 and 4 aren't as good. Whereas I think as a binge, I would have gone straight through. So it was an interesting one. The other one I watched was The Lovebirds. That has just sort of come out on Netflix. Netflix movie in the end, and it's enjoyable rom-com with what's his name? What's his name?
Kumaj
Camille
Nashi or something.
Nanjiani.
Yeah.
Who is now ripped as a mother effer for his
Is he
role
ripped
in
in
this.
this too, is he?
I think this is
Is
when.
this after his Eternal,
No, I
his
think he's
Marvel
filming
film?
this probably while production is in January 2019. So this time last year, Eternals was filming. So I reckon he was getting ripped at this point because this is
Okay.
really simple scenes, really simple sets, like some stuff. You could probably film this in a couple of weeks anyway, like type of movie. So it reminds me a lot of what was the Steve Carell one with
40-Year-Old Virgin.
no, the one with like Date Night. Was it Date Night? Not
Date night with Tina Fey, and
with
he
Tina
goes around
Fey.
the
Yeah,
town.
so
Kill the gangsters.
this one is effectively him, and I think it might be the first role I've known of this lady Issa Rae. Just trying to look what other stuff she's sort of been in. I think it's literally just
Well,
this
they all
is
have
like
their Netflix debuts, don't they? So,
yeah. So
yes.
those two are in a relationship. It starts off again, the beauty of the first couple of dates, and they're in love and everything. And then it jumps forward to 4 years later, and they're both sort of have had enough in their relationship. She's addicted to his phone. He just works on his computer all day in his job.
So
And
normal relationship.
yeah, normal relationship around that time. No, and it shows off in that there, and it feels they're both like we both don't care for each other anymore, and effectively they break up again in the first sort of 10 minutes as they're on their way to a dinner party and always talking about, oh, I hate your friend who's like this, and I hate that friend or that guy, and all this sort of stuff. Like you said, similar to a long-term sort of relationship, and neither of them want to get married, etc. So it's sort of hitting a dead end and a crossroad of their relationship. And my classic saying ever is then hijinks ensues in the story, and they think they're framed or they're on the run for a murder, whereas someone kills someone in their car, and that's when the story now gets going. So it sort of has that they're trying to solve a murder who don't know nothing about being policemen or anything to clear their names. And it's an enjoyable, it runs at a really quick pace of 87 minutes. So sort of your perfect sort of Netflix thing.
Sounds very date nighty. I know what you mean.
Date nighty, and a little bit of action, a little bit of comedy thrown in there because they're both sort of comedians. And I enjoyed it for what it was. And I think it won't win awards even as a best Netflix comedy or rom-com, etc. But for a cheap budget of 16 mil that they said it's on and distributed by Netflix and stuff, it's a really nice movie. Now, again, there's plot holes every which way about it and certain things and stuff, but I enjoyed it and it's quite funny, and I would recommend to anyone, even if you got the guys over for a night or you're with the missus, you could find worse movies. So I think this is I'd give it a watch.
Cool.
So
all right, we'll do. Yeah, I do plan to watch that. So I'll watch it sometime tonight, I reckon.
So now at the end, Mace, we're done for today's episode. So thoughts? How's everything's good? We're done. We've tied this up pretty good. Yeah,
I hope everyone enjoyed the episode. And if you're sitting at home, you're running our Netflix shows, go and get yourself a Switch and get some Mario Kart going. Invite your friends around as long as they're 1.5 meters away. And get some bevies going, and you'll have a good time. Mario Kart especially makes for a good drinking game too.
It does.
So
no, perfect. So the next thing, we've got a little bit of a special. We've got our first guest coming on the next episode for episode 12. We're looking at Spider-Man PS4 game. So having a little bit of a deep dive and a look back at that. Now, has that been out for 2 years now? Or is it a year?
It's on its way. Coming up to 2 years.
2 years now. So we'll have our first guest on the pod. So we'll have a couple of social stuff up on there. So again, if you're interested in getting in contact with us, again, talk about the game, similar to this stuff, give us your top 5 Switch games. And there'll be a list on our highlights on Instagram when this is released too. So we'll put ours up there. You share yours. Everyone can get in contact with you, Jack. Where?
Jack_Mason22.
Yeah, and me it will be Cutts. And you can follow us on Screenblend. Make sure you give us a review. It takes no longer than 10 seconds. That can be quick for some people, but a long time for others. And give us a review, give us your thoughts. It helps out a lot. Head to the website and make sure you subscribe and download. Anything else, Mace?
No, that's everything. We'll see you next week.
See you next week, everybody. Ta-da.
Bye.